Good evening, viewers. On behalf of Digital Journalists Association of India and the Digital Security Association of India, I welcome you all for this panel discussion on the recent Code of Ethics for the Digital Media announced by the Government of India. 2 days back, Government of India has made an announcement and published Code of Ethics and Rules for the Digital Media. Today we have two experts. Mr. V. Rajendran is a cyber law expert and cyber security expert and the chairman of the Digital Security Association of India. He is an authority on the cyber law. We have invited him on this show. We have Mr. Karthikeyan, another reputed cyber law expert and cyber security expert and vice president of Cyber Society of India. Both stalwarts in the cyber law area. They have agreed to share their views with us. Now let us go straight into that. I will be requesting each one of them to share their views on the recent Code of Ethics announced by the Government of India, each 5 minutes. Then we will go for open discussion where the audience can put the questions and then seek the clarifications. I will start with Mr. Rajendran. Mr. Rajendran, probably you might have read completely the Code of Ethics announced by the Government of India. Can you just briefly say what is this Code of Ethics and why it was published suddenly by the Government of India? What impact it will have on the digital media? Or will it have any impact on the normal people like us? Rajendran.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers. Good evening, friends. Thank you, Srinivasan. Thank you, Susan, Madam, and others for the wonderful opportunity. Though DISA is our own initiative, still I take a pleasure in addressing the August gathering through e-mode on behalf of DISA and my personal behalf too. Now, I'm particularly inclined to refer to one particular word used by Srinivasan. Why suddenly? It's not sudden. In fact, this move itself by the government is not a sudden. We have been thinking about it. Many law-concerned citizens or information system security concerned professionals and security experts have been telling the government in different forums that one such move should be there. The OTT platform, the social media also has to be monitored. There should be some kind of a control, some kind of a regulatory mechanism, just like we have the financial controller for the financial system. We have Reserve Bank of India. For the print media, we have the press council. Though people do say that it's only a paperless tiger, toothless tiger, and all that, but there is something, some regulatory body which you can look up to. In the case of print media, also, and in the case of TV media also that is there. In the case of Facebook or Google or WhatsApp kind of a social media networking site, there is absolutely no such thing, no control. Anybody who has a mobile phone, who has a smartphone with a reasonably good network connection is a journalist, is an editor, he is a reporter, he is a writer, he is an author, he is a doctor, he is an advisor. He can advise the prime minister, he can advise the president. He can be a doctor, he can put anything, including a lot of fake news also. News which was there about 3 years back, he can just put it in his WhatsApp and spread it viral, for about 10,000, 20,000 copies in about 15 minutes. People will be shocked on seeing it, not even knowing that this incident actually happened about 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years back. Such is the impact of a social media platform. So there has to be some kind of regulatory mechanism, some control, something should be there. So this was actually a long felt need. And the Personal Data Protection Act, the Data Privacy Act, loosely called Data Privacy Act, which has seen various versions, which is now in the parliamentary panel's review, the parliamentary committee led by Srimati Meenakshi Lekhi. People said that also would come very shortly. But even when that comes, we are not very sure whether it will be very powerful. So this kind of a rules, which is part of Information Technology Act 2000 and Information Technology Amendment Act 2008 was long overdue. That is why the government has come out with it, number one. Number two, these rules say very clearly that there must be some control. Government has very clearly said that we are very much for the press freedom. We are the savior of the freedom of expression. We're not going to put any curb in it. We only want to curb or control fake news. Wherever it may incite violence, or it may destabilize the cultural fabric of the nation, or it may be something derogatory, especially those relating to child pornography or adult pornography, any kind of obscene material, there must be some control. We are only going in that particular direction, not in the direction of controlling the people's right to express in a social networking site. In fact, last night, Ravi Shankar Prasad himself was on Republic TV. He gave a very good interview for about 10 minutes. He said very clearly what the government's objective was, why the government has come out with it. So in my next session, I'll be going into the detail. This is for the preliminary. Thank you, Srinivasan. Over to Karthikeyan now.
Thank you, Rajendran. And now I go to Mr. Karthikeyan. He is one of the well-known and reputed cyber lawyers. Sir, you might have gone through the guidelines now. And what are the concerns that you have on that? Sometimes people are having a knee-jerk reaction on that, that it is too much of control on that, and the freedom of expression is going to be lost. And you can also add and supplement Rajendran's views, and then you can also add your as a professional lawyer, you can have your own views. Mr. Karthikeyan.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Srinivasan, sir. Thank you, Mr. Rajendran, sir. And thank you, Ms. Susan Kochi, madam. It's not as, rightly pointed out by Mr. Rajendran, it is not, suddenly it came out of this kind of issues, because a draft bill was introduced way back in the year 2018 December, where a draft regulation to govern the social media was introduced, but unfortunately it was not passed and it got lapsed. And this is the same, elaborated version of the same with more features on that. And of course, all the law enforcement authorities as well as lawyers are in pressurizing the government to bring such laws, because we don't have boundaries for social media. As pointed out, anyone who has a mobile phone in his hand is called to be a journalist. And of course, it dilutes the value of journalism. And moreover, we call press as a fourth estate of the nation. Actually, by having a social media account or by having an account in a particular, YouTube channel, they call themselves as press. And recently also, a lot of people have been arrested for spreading fake news. And in the name of prank shows, they also call themselves as journalists. Of course, this is a welcome move by the government, and of course, as pointed by you, Article 19 speaks about freedom of speech and expression in our constitution, but Article 19(1) is speaks about freedom of speech and expression. Article 19(1) is not an absolute right. There is Article 19(2), where there are reasonable restrictions when there is a threat to the nation, threat to the integrity of the nation, secularism of the nation, or for the defense of the nation. So this rule, the recent rule which has been given by the government of India, is in order to control the environment. We have controlled the boundaries. We know that we have a geographical indication, whereas we have boundaries for our country. Whereas in cyberspace we don't have a boundaries and we don't have a control. And moreover, even in case of any obscene or nudity matters spread in social media, our law enforcement authority can only make a request to them. They can't order it as on date. Before there's a rule has been passed, particular content an email, we were at the mercy of this kind of social media. But after this rule, we can order them, and because there is a particular segment which speaks that when a request is made by the enforcement authority or any division of the government of India, the particular content has to be removed within 24 hours. And when a request is made to the any social media that we need certain information, they should be able to produce it, because we have filed several cases against a particular company called WhatsApp. And all these cases, WhatsApp had not responded, stating that we have a system that we don't maintain any logs, or we don't know where the originator is. Of course, this rule demands that if you don't have a system, don't do business in India. Of course, we need this kind of, because India is one of the countries which has the largest population in the world, and moreover, which has more number of users for this social media, especially a single company which holds 3 different medias, which is known as Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, controls the entire environment. And we would have witnessed that earlier, this kind of social media has actually decided the fate of the country. We have experienced that in Donald Trump election as well, a few years back. So of course there must be a regulatory body, but it should not be using its power in excess to that, because there is a hitch in it. Because here it says social media and significant social media. In the rule, it has been described as social media and significant social media, and this rule is applicable to all social medias except significant social media. And significant social media will be implemented after 3 years from the date of publication in the Gazette. And why this 3 years period has been given? Why? Because already they have been regulated in other countries. For example, in Europe, we have a GDPR implemented way back in 2018, but they have a regulatory mechanism for that. Why can't they adopt it immediately? We don't want to give any breathing time for them, because they can come up with some other ideas on that. They can also give a misread information, because we need to control this. Actually, it's need of the hour. Rather than discussing on whether it is required or not, it is the need of the hour. Because in social media, previously we had a control under section 66A, spreading false messages, or spreading any hated messages, or any messages which has a menacing character is considered to be a violation, and they can take action. But way back in 2015, Supreme Court had struck down in the case called Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. Subsequently, a new industry had started in the cyberspace, which is known as meme industry and troll industry. People started, doing a lot of memes, and troll videos. A lot of things have been, and there is no control over them. Of course, this is a welcome move by the government of India, and we appreciate this.
Mr.
Yes,
Karthikeyan,
sir.
you
Yes,
you
sir.
said somewhere that is nowadays everybody has become a journalist, and it has diluted the concept of journalism itself. Now today everybody calls himself a person having a Facebook account or a Twitter account. He has become a journalist now.
Yes,
Now at the same time, the social media giants like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and all, they try to work, as far as I know, that they try to influence or interfere with the local politics itself. Suppose what India has to do, the Indian sovereignty has to be decided by the Indian government and Indian parliament. We have an elected government, but sometimes I have a feeling that are they interfering too much on our internal, or influencing our internal things? Maybe this. How do you react to that? I will ask Mr.
of course,
Karthikeyan,
sir.
then I will go to Rajendran again. Both the same views I wanted. I wanted from both of you.
Of
So,
course, of course. If you could look into social media such as Facebook, they have a political wing as well. They have a separate department to govern the political parties. Accordingly, whenever there is an election in any country, including India, they visit that particular country and they will start their negotiation with the relevant, what you call as parties. And whoever engages them, accordingly, they will try to manipulate your own, thoughts. Even each and every individual has their own thought, but they will try to indirectly market it. Campaign is the other way of doing election. Otherwise, this is indirect marketing. So marketing in subconscious mind. This is the activity which Cambridge Analytica was doing previously in US election, and subsequently they were also attempted in India as well. It is proven in their website. If you could visit Cambridge Analytica website, they have stated that we have conducted elections in India as well. So indirectly, if you visit the particular website, it says that we have conducted more than 200 elections. So you can think that how a private company can conduct elections in other countries. In several countries, they mentioned about 19 countries they have conducted election. Of course, it's indirect marketing. Even during the election, there is a code of conduct announced by the election commission, and we need to follow it up. And we should stop the campaign one day before the date of polling. Of course, if you have a mobile phone, I can influence him even while you are standing in the queue while going for going for a vote. So of course they can influence. There is no restrictions on them, because they doesn't do any campaign directly, but indirectly they are doing it, and definitely they will influence them. There's no doubt in it. And moreover, India has more number of active users. Not only Facebook, we have a WhatsApp as well. Nearly 54 crore users are there in WhatsApp. They can indirectly influence them, because WhatsApp uses artificial intelligence, Facebook uses artificial intelligence. We are governed by this artificial intelligence right now. So we are living in the world of machine learning and artificial intelligence, no human interactions. So once you create a code in such a way that it's been programmed to influence you to vote for a particular party, then it will work on its own. So we have been influenced by words and comments. It is already proven, because if you go to an e-commerce site, before purchasing any product, what makes you to take a decision to choose the product is nothing but the ratings and comments posted for a particular product. So you are influenced by words and photographs over there. Similar to that, even before voting, you can be influenced through words and photographs and videos posted in social media. This is how they work. There is no doubt on it. They are doing it.
Rajendran, can I have your views?
Yeah, in fact,
Is it,
like what Karthikeyan said is absolutely true, correct. I only want to add just about 2-3 more sentences to it to supplement his points. These artificial intelligence driven Facebook and WhatsApp kind of entities, I'm just calling them entities, firms or companies or whatever. These entities, they do have a hidden agenda. I'm not very sure whether it could be for money or for their psychological or their philosophical orientation or inclination towards one particular set of politics, leftist, rightist, or middle of center, like those things. But they do have something hidden, and they proceed with that. And they feel, I'm not very sure whether they can do it, they feel that they can influence the people. In fact, what Twitter did recently was actually a double standard. What Twitter did in US, it is doing exactly the opposite in India. Actually, Twitter, a junior official of Twitter, was able to block the message of Trump, notwithstanding the fact that whether Trump posted was true or not, or whatever, there is a secondary thing. But Trump was the president at that time. A junior official of Twitter had the power or audacity or authority, whatever you call it, had the power to block the message of president. Whereas in India, the prime minister and the minister and the government is officially telling Twitter to block a message. Twitter says, I can't do it. Twitter says, I cannot do it. And then the CEO of Twitter, what's the name? I just missed her name. The CEO
Dorsey.
of Twitter,
Jack Dorsey.
Correct. Anwar Malini Kaul. Okay. Then the CEO of Twitter, she resigned in protest because she had a fear that for non-obedience, non-compliance with Indian law, she may be questioned. So Indian IT Act may question her. So she even had to resign the post. So Twitter in India is so arrogant. I can even use the word so arrogant that we can disobey the instructions, we can non-comply, we can go for non-compliance of IT Act, still we can do business. This is one particular area wherein I'm particularly appreciative of the move by the government. Government has now said very clearly that if you want to do business in India, you be compliant with our rules and our laws. Be compliant here, follow our rules and do business here. I think this was a good move. From this particular angle, I would certainly say it's a good move.
Mr. Karthikeyan, see, when our Indian companies, TCS or Wipro or any other company, when they go and conduct the business there in America, they have to follow what the American government says. But unfortunately, when the other companies, foreign companies, when they come and operate the business here in India, but they refuse to obey what the government's legally elected government, because it's a sovereign country, democratic country. They refuse that. Is that new guideline address this issue, or are they giving some sort of a solution for that, not to repeat such, not to get such sort of things in future?
Mr. Definitely, sir. This, yes, sir, definitely. There's no doubt on it. This new guidelines will have an impact on these companies. Previously, these companies used to take shelter under Section 79 of Information Technology Act, calling themselves as intermediary, and they are immune from any kind of actions against them. But whereas in this particular guidelines, they are very specific. Even though you take shelter under Section 79, you should comply with these, whatever the guidelines, whatever the rules stated in the new rule. If you fail to do so, accordingly actions can be taken against them, and they can't claim immunity. Even if you could see most of these IT companies, what they do is they will have their premises within the SEZ, Special Economic Zone. If you go inside the Special Economic Zone, there is there are some privileges given to them. There is no particular laws will not be applicable if a company has been incorporated within the Special Economic Zone. They have taken that shelter, but right now this is a blanket order. This particular guideline and rule given by the Government of India is a blanket order. It is applicable for companies even if they are located within the Special Economic Zone. However, this is to control the cyberspace and also to regulate the cyberspace. Previously, it was not done. Now it has been done, and they are forced to listen to the Government of India, because in several cases we have given several requests to these social medias. What the reply we got is they used to say it doesn't violate our community guidelines, and so it is not an offense according to their country. So they can't remove any kind. For example, I will tell you my experience in a particular case. There was a case where an obscene picture of a girl was posted in social media, and it was circulated to all our colleagues. And when we reported this to Facebook, and reported, Facebook has replied to us stating that this is not obscene according to their own community guidelines. See, a girl wearing a bikini and as poster has been posted in some social media is acceptable in US because culturally they differ from us, whereas it is not acceptable in India. We have more cultural values. So since we culturally differ on this aspect, they will follow only their culture. So according to their culture, this is not an offense. So they fail to remove it. So even though, as I said earlier, we were only requesting them, not ordering them, because we don't have a powers. According to Section 75 of Information Technology Act, we have extraterritorial jurisdiction, but we can't enforce it. The practical difficulties. Since these guidelines are added as a supplementary to the Information Technology Act, now we can enforce this act, and accordingly we can control them. So do or die. If you could able to follow the rules and regulations given by the government of India, please do the business in India. If you can't, please exit from India. This is the situation right now. Of course, we actually need more stringent guidelines similar to in Europe, there are the guidelines we call it as European directives. European directives are more stringent than the guidelines given right now in India. So we need some kind of directives similar to European directives. Of course, this is a first step towards controlling, or not only controlling, towards regulating this kind of social media. In upcoming future, we can expect more number of guidelines similar to that.
Sir, but now Rajendran was talking about the Twitter, disobedience of the Twitter. Can this happen in future? Suppose if the government says you block certain accounts or anything, then if they refuse, what the type of punishment that the Twitter or Facebook or the social media platforms will get it?
See, according to Section 69 of the Information Technology Act, government has the power to intercept, monitor, decrypt any information or any communication if it is within India. Okay, and 69A, which was included in the Amendment Act 2008, it says that government has the power to block any website. So if Twitter follows the same strategy, and if they fail to obey the Indian government has the power to block Twitter. Definitely, there's no doubt in it. Under 69A, they have the power to block it. Right now, through this guideline, they are giving a warning message to these media giants. And if they fail to follow that, definitely 69A will enforced against them, and their websites can be blocked in India, and no one can use Twitter.
Srinivasan,
yes, tell me. Rajendran, proceed.
Yeah, actually, what Karthikeyan said is true. Already, as per Section 69 and the 69B and 70B, as per the IT Amendment Act 2008, the intermediaries, Twitter, Facebook, they are all coming under the category of intermediaries. They do have the powers of monitoring, intercepting, blocking. Like 3 stages it is there. So even with these rules, government can pretty well do those things. But these rules empower the government to do it with more clarity so that they are not questioned. And government, I would rather say, has very wisely not passed it as a separate act. It has only framed it as the rules already empowered, already with the government enshrined in the IT Act, which the government can anyway frame the rules. So government has said that with the powers vested on us by IT Act 2000, IT Amendment Act 2008, 69B, read with 70B, we are now coming out with these rules. So naturally, these rules cannot be questioned. So government is more strengthened. So Twitter or Facebook or WhatsApp or any other company cannot just shy away, cannot just get away with an excuse that I don't have an office in India, or my CEO is not in India. These things, we cannot do it. Like those things cannot possible. Because these rules, they also specifically say that you have to give the name of the nodal officer, the chief compliance officer. He should be a resident of India. There are many details. In fact, I have not come to those details. Those are the possibly the next few minutes. When you ask me more questions, I'll be coming out with those details.
Okay. Susan, do you have any questions to ask? Then we will go for the chat box also. I request the audience who are inside the Zoom can put their questions in the chat box. Susan, do you have any question?
Yes, I have one question.
Susan, by the way, Susan is the editor-in-chief of Presence. Susan is the editor-in-chief of Presence. And Susan, do you have a...
Yes, I do have a question. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yeah, very clear, Susan.
Okay. I think Dr. Gopal also has a question, but before that, let me, since Srinivasan has passed it on to me. My question is that recently there's been some rulings in Australia, France, about paying for the content, paying to the source for the content that they use, that the service provider use. Can you elaborate on that, please? Mr. Karthikeyan as well as Mr. Rajendran.
First, me, Susan.
Yes, please, Rajendran, always.
I think this is it's a very favorite subject of many. For 2 days, I've been thinking about it. I've been talking about it. Thank you, Susan, for giving me an opportunity. In fact, there was a very good article in Times of India and many other newspapers also. Now, Australian government has said that when Google or Facebook is publishing a news item, because they only say that we are only giving a link, we are only publishing a news item. They don't take the ownership. But whereas newspapers, especially the print newspaper like Times of India, Hindu, Indian Express, Deccan Chronicle, or whatever, these people, they spend a lot of time by sending their correspondence, get the news, confirm the authenticity. When certain thing gets published in Times of India or Hindu, we know it's true, it's correct, isn't it? Reasonably, to a very great extent. So they don't put any efforts for confirming the authenticity. Somebody puts in all the dog work, slogs, and confirm the news, and simply you are putting it, you are making a profit by the advertisement which is shown along with you, the Facebook, Twitter, and all that. So this kind of thing. So the Australian Prime Minister has come out with a very brilliant move that these people have to pay to the original news suppliers, namely the print media like Times of India or Hindu or the newspapers, because they do take up the responsibility. They do have a right to ask for money, share in your profit. Somebody does the legwork and you put it in your website, you provide the network and you make profit. That cannot be done. This is a stand. This particular thing, more from a commercial point of view and from a techno-legal point of view also, certainly a good move. I would certainly say that as an extension of the rules which are already here, when the government wants to tame the internet, tame the intermediaries, bring the intermediaries to some kind of a control, possibly a day will come when India also will say that to Google, Facebook, and others. Yeah, Karthikeyan?
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
So there's no doubt in it.
I'm not very sure if this qualifies as a question, but just as an extension, what happens if an individual Facebook user like I would take a link from these sources and copy paste it and share it? Does that, or how does that work then in the light of this kind of ruling that has been passed recently by those countries? Is there any input for that or insight?
Of course, ma'am, because it's already been in the public domain. Once Google publishes it, then it is the onus is on the Google, and Google has to pay that. If an individual circulates it, though he circulates the content, but it has been hosted in Google. So accordingly, Google makes revenue out of it. They need to share the profit. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Gopal, do you have a question? You have raised your hand. Yes,
I do have a question. It is well acknowledged that the rapid pace of absorption of technology, the internet technologies into the news media is a concern because we don't have that kind of a grip on the technology. It is not new for the newspapers or news generators to share content through formal means. PIB, Reuters, PTI, BBC. Sharing the news is not a concern. The commercial aspects are also well understood. It's a case of creating deterrence when things go viral. How to plug it is the question. Is over the top OTT the root cause for this much of a concern now? Because the technology can be programmed and nobody needs to know. The top people can simply be bypassed.
Mr. Rajendran?
Yes, sir. Actually, the proposed guidelines which came day before yesterday, they also do speak about OTT in the part 2. And OTT content, so far, OTT has been a completely unregulated platform, unregulated, unmonitored, uncontrolled platform. Anybody can take any film, but the feature film can be completely porno or child video file, kind of a film. They can put it in OTT platform. So there was always a demand that OTT also should be monitored. I think Dr. Gopal has this in mind when he was posing this question. So OTT regulation also is there. Even the films on OTT, the proposed guidelines has come out with a very nice initiative. There are 5 categories of films. They can go in for a self-certification, self-regulatory, like under 7, under 13, under 17, major, and strictly adult, like that. So the OTT provider, the OTT platform, like Amazon Prime or whatever, they have to ensure that the users, they declare their age, they do have the parental control kind of utility in place, and then only these things are actually webcast in their platform. So this is a good move, a good control. Government wants to control OTT also.
Adding
This
to
also-
that, the government also said they should have a verification mechanism for age for watching adult
Yeah.
movies.
Yes,
They
exactly.
can't simply go away by saying that I'm an adult, I'm eligible to view
Yeah,
this movie.
exactly.
We should have a verification mechanism for that.
Verification mechanism. They should
Yes.
have verification mechanism.
Yes.
Yes.
That leads me another question to both Mr. Karthikeyan and Rajendran. Sir, even nowadays when you want to open a Twitter account or a Facebook account, we don't have anything, just we can open it. In future, like a bank account, whether we may have to have a KYC norms?
Of course not, sir. If it is an Indian company, we can do that because now we need to go back to Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India. So in that case, the court has clearly stated that a particular section in the Aadhaar Act was struck down, stating that it is unconstitutional because that particular section enables the government to share the Aadhaar information with the private companies for verification purpose. And that is the reason when Aadhaar was introduced, all the big banks demanded us that we should, give a other copy to the bank, otherwise the account will be blocked, or else the network service provider such as mobile network service provider demands that you need to provide the other copy, otherwise your mobile number will be deactivated. But based on the order Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India case, the court has clearly mentioned that apart from the government getting any subsidy from the government or for filing IT income tax or any other purpose which is purely on government, then you if it is purely on government, you can share Aadhaar. If not, you should not share with any private organization. So even in future, if this company, either Twitter or Facebook or someone comes into picture, they can't demand that you should give your other information in order to make some verification. Of course, they have artificial intelligence. They can have a facial recognition. Even your eyeballs can say what is your age. So they can use some mechanism on that.
Will it suppose in future? Now there is the law says that suppose if I am starting a fake news or a wrong news, then the originator also should be traced. Probably I don't
Yes.
know whether they have the mechanism now or not. They may have to create a mechanism. Then in that case, whether they will be how will they identify? Suppose the genuinity of the person. Suppose I have opened that. Who is Srinivasan? How the Facebook will know or Twitter will know unless I give credentials.
You should have a registration process. It says government is empowered to exercise control. When certain YouTube channel is only publishing filth or obscene material or pedophile material or terrorism material, then government can certainly tell that provider, the network provider, not even the originator, network provider, to identify the originator and block the website immediately. Within 24 hours, they have to accept. They have to act according to the directives given by the government or the court. So this rule is a welcome move. Though the registration process is still not there.
No, of course. Here, what happens is whatever the content may be, it has to be telecasted or broadcasted only through a network service provider such as YouTube or Facebook. So now the government shifts the burden to the intermediaries such as YouTube or Google. So it is their duty. The burden is on their shoulder to identify who is the creator of the particular content and where this content has been originated. Of course, already these companies has that mechanism to identify, because right now the advertisement that we are getting is only a targeted advertisement. It's not a generalized advertisements. So when a targeted advertisement is being done based on the IP, then definitely a similar kind of mechanism can also be adopted to identify the originator of a particular content. Of course, it is their duty to produce the information about the particular person who has created the particular content or uploaded the particular content or shared the particular content. So entirely the onus lies with the intermediaries.
Yes, right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely right.
Okay. One more question that I have is, what is the status of the WhatsApp in the light of this? Is that now WhatsApp, which boasts of confidentiality of messages and contents, where is there any mechanism now for this?
See, WhatsApp, it claims that it has an end-to-end encryption, but anyone can monitor it. It is evident in the Pegasus case, where a company from NSO, an Israel-based company, I think way back in 2019, Facebook, the company which owns WhatsApp, had filed a case against a Israeli company called NSO in California court, stating that they have intruded into their server and started monitoring all the conversations. So indirectly, they have admitted that people can intrude into their server, and accordingly, all the conversations can be monitored by third party if they have the capacity to do so. So there is no doubt in it that it is 100% secured conversation, whatever you do. It says that end-to-end encryption, but we are not aware that whether WhatsApp is watching it or not. Definitely, without watching it, WhatsApp can't make any business out of it. So whatever we converse over the WhatsApp, either it may be a text messages or it may be a voice call, WhatsApp used to listen to that. Based on that, you can find a similar advertisement in Facebook. It is there. It is evident when European court has levied a huge penalty of 1.22 euros against Facebook way back in 2017, because in 2014 Facebook had bought WhatsApp for nearly about $20 million. And at that time, they have given a declaration to the European Commission stating that they will not share the data between WhatsApp and Facebook. Of course, after the purchase, the European Commission has identified that WhatsApp data has been shared with Facebook. Accordingly, Facebook had commercialized it. Then immediately they have slapped with them with a hefty fine, and they have also paid for that. And that is the result where the GDPR came out. Post this incident only, the GDPR came out in the year 2018. So of course, there is no doubt anyone can intercept into it.
That would include the government too, because
Of course,
I had the money.
Of course.
Yeah. Is there anybody with a question? Otherwise, we can conclude the program. Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajendran and Mr. Karthikeyan. It's been a very enlightening session.
Thank you.
And thank you for the time and the effort and the knowledge that you shared in this platform. And I hope that many of the viewers, both those who've logged in and those who are viewing otherwise, would have benefited by this and been better informed rather than to presume a lot of things. Thank you very much on behalf of Prime Point Foundation and Free Sales, Desai, Dijai, and others.
Thank you.